Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about memory holding again. I just did one moments ago here, but in the previous Science Moment. Look, memory holding is hard to do. Now, it turns out that in Twitter, for example, when they would censor a person, permanently suspend them, then not only all of their tweets were gone, but anybody who quoted them, well, all those quotes were now gone. It's as if all the statements of somebody that were published in the New York Times and in books everywhere, as if all of those quotes suddenly disappeared, right? And when you quote somebody that isn't their speech, this is a mention of their speech. It's the difference between the use of something and the mention of something. It's like apple, an actual apple, versus the word apple, right? And so when memory holding happens of this kind of Twitter permanent suspension kind, it's not only apples that were, let's say, banned, but mentioning of apples themselves, which is a completely different kind of object altogether. Namely, it's a word about that happens to refer to apples. All right, so memory holding has this kind of use-mention distinction, and it even spreads across the mentions, which is a very different kind of thing. It is still very hard to do. It can happen again electronically in some cases, but still it's hard to generally do. And certainly in the physical world, as we've also talked about in Science Moments before, one way to ensure that it can't happen is with physical tokens. Once it's spread across the environment in magazines and books and newspapers, it is practically impossible, even for the most authoritarian and controlling governments, to really get their hands on these physical tokens. So it's very hard. But there's another kind of memory holding that happens, and it happens so that people memory hold themselves before they even express themselves, right? When things are censored, people figure out which things are censored. And so they say, I'm not even going to say it, because if I say it, I'm going to get dinged, and I'm going to potentially be suspended temporarily, permanently, or at any rate, even that speech itself is just going to be deleted anyway. So what's the point? They will censor themselves, and that means that the speech will never have occurred. It's effectively been a memory hold better than memory holding could ever do, right? When you begin to censor, people censor themselves. And this is the best kind of memory holding that you can have, because it never even appears on the scene. It just never shows up. And so there's no memory holding to do. You do it yourself by refraining to even put your speech out there into tokens, whether it's electronic or physical. Right? This is so much deeper and harder to control, because so much speech, so much censorship that has occurred, so much speech that has been censored happened by virtue of you and I and folks refraining from speaking to preserve their other speech, right? To preserve their platform. Right? And you can't measure. It's difficult to measure all of the absence of speech, all of the speech which was memory hold in advance before it ever appeared at all. That was your Science Moment.